Hello and welcome back to awtoolbox.com. My name is Glenn Keller, and in this video we are diving into customization enhancements for Teamcenter 2412. In the first section in here, we are looking at a rich client enhancement that is really meant to drive the migration from the rich client to Active Workspace. So in here, if you dive into the rich client directory where you have it installed, essentially there has been an analyzer tool that's been provided by Siemens to help with analyzing custom jar files. If I dive into the portal directory where my rich client is installed and then go into configuration, I'm looking for a configuration file. It's probably in my plugins. And it is my configuration client specific properties. So if I come into configuration, I can see client specific is right here. So in here, customer specific properties, there is, if I open this with code, do a control find for exclude, and nothing pops up. So there is essentially this additional variable called exclude jar name list. And you can specify this in the file and basically list a set of jars that you don't want to be taken into account with this tool. So it'll ignore it for the analysis. In the screenshot, I will say that there is a section in the screenshot that says that this is going to be there. Now, they also mentioned that it's in the customer specific properties, which I am not seeing in this list. I see client specific properties. So take that with a grain of salt, but if I come up to the portal directory, there should be a analyzer installation zip that you can get to actually analyze that directory, and that exists inside of the apps, media, Siemens, software. Dive into your 2412 package, go into rack additions, which is under here, right there, and then in there is your rack customization analyzer. You can extract that, hit extract, and in that analyzer folder will be several pieces of information. Once it fully extracts, it's making its way. And you can run this essentially against your environment to analyze those custom jar files that you have placed inside of there. So take a look at that first page of the deployment guide or the customization enhancements to review this. But we're dealing with the customer specific properties here, and you can see it's kind of got its own, and here's the custom exclude jar list. So that first client properties isn't what we wanted. We wanted this customer properties, and I'm kind of exploring it the first time too here. And we want to just list those out in that display. In addition to that, more efficiently scrub business logic customization comes out of the customization server. So basically a new namespace has been created called Teamcenter.Customer Server. It gives you a simplified C# API set, centralized C# customization code, as well as isolating C# code. You can run C# execution separately with its own TC server process, and you can isolate that C# customization code by running out of process or asynchronous from the Teamcenter server. You can configure tables from the user interface in Active Workspace now as well. So in here, we showed this in a previous video, but if I come in and I look at my workspaces, switch over to Active Admin. Now inside of the system, we used to have to use export UI config, import UI config, but there's this new table component here, table configurator, where I can go into my AWP0 search results, find my table configuration, and my set of information in here. So if I go to default, I can see all of the columns. Now I can see their widths and what they need, and I can click add property here to add a property to the list. I need to pick what type of object the property is on, so it can set the internal type name. So maybe I want to do item ID or item. And then in here, I'll actually use item revision, as items aren't usually returned. So I'll use item revision. Then I can say I want to include, let's go down and find something like current revision. And then I can apply that or add it. Now in here, if I look at the entirety of the page, you can see that it doesn't really have anything except for here. So it added it up here. If I remove that, I can rearrange it. I can set wrap text so I can read it a little bit better. It has a pretty good layout here. If I hit edit, I can edit all of them or drag values down if I want to. So there's a lot of good functionality with this tool. Definitely check it out. It saves us a lot of time from having to do the export UI configs and manage the XML. Conserve UI space with style sheet tables in a section. So basically what Siemens has done with this next enhancement is when you're in the author location. So if I come in here, take a look at this, go into Explorer. In the past, whenever we've looked at something, if I change my layout, let's change my layout to tree and details. So in the past, whenever we looked at something, if we've had a table, notice the table is collapsing with the full section here. So in the past, we've had the ability to have an object set inside of a section. Now Siemens has got a object set section tag that allows you to define a table with a section without having additional code in your style sheet. So if I come back into here, let's go ahead and launch our Active Architect. We'll load up our XRT editor. And then in the XRT editor, I'll go back to my home page, navigate back to author, and we'll pull up an example of that table. Now, a quick little tip is it may not have been rolled to all tables yet, so I'm double checking that. I'm going to pull up my page, which is right here, go to XRT editor, and you'll notice that they have actually replaced them. So now it's an object set section, which includes a title of that section. So the entirety of that section can be minimized. So this is an enhancement to style sheets. We haven't seen a lot of those in the last couple of releases. It also kind of cleans up where the menus are. The menus are no longer below the header, which they used to be kind of on the left-hand side right here, and now they're over on the right. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the update from the fundamentals section. In addition to that, immutable search filters. When you come in, I have seen a lot of benefits to the search or a lot of enhancements to it. But when I come in and I do a search, let's do name test. I've got a search here, and you can see your filters are on the left-hand side. What it's basically allowing you to do is you can configure some search filter options to be mandatory if you have a custom page. So if you're building your own location or sub-location, you can make some of your filters now mandatory. You need to update the search state attribute to be able to have your users turn off the search filter option, so just take that into note. The enhanced Active Workspace environment allows us to run an AW script that now replaces npm run. And you can use this script now inside of the build. So if I come in and I go to my administrative command prompt, I've got one already running. I'll cd to my Active Workspace directory, cd to AWS2 stage, and then I'll do a CLS, and I'll do start dot and press enter, which will launch this. You'll notice npm run is no longer going to be a thing. It's now AW. So I'm going to launch this, copy it, and paste it in here. Now it's going to yell, so let me do that again. And then I'll do a CLS, initenv. And now it's saying that npm run was what we had before. So if I do npm run build, for instance, notice that, so what it was saying was now it's replaced with AW. So the AW script should pick up. You see how npm run build is still working for me, so I know that that is still a valid and working component. Now I just need the AW command, which I can use in addition to this. So I'm going to Control C this and just kind of kill it. I'm going to use AW instead, and then there's a bunch of arguments. So you can use add, you can use audit, you can use, so I'll run an audit, for instance. So AW audit will validate your code, your modules, and prepare, basically allow you to know whether or not your build is going to be successful. They've also got build, which will actually build it post. They've got clean, which will clean up any temporary files. Doc, basically look for a specific string in the documentation. You can migrate your code. You can report on your code, set or start to clear specific settings. You can start a site, which is essentially like a development site. You can run tests. There's a lot of different things. And in the online help documentation for the What's New guide, they have all these different varieties of arguments that you can provide. You can add authentication. They've gotten rid of the generate module utility. So now you're going to be using things like AW add authenticator, AW add command to build your new commands in the components. I think that this is a lot cleaner than something like generate module or npm run. It really kind of stays to the Active Workspace environment pretty well. So definitely play around with this new feature. In here, if I do AW module, add module, hit enter, you can see that instead of generate module, you can add a module. So I need to specify the kit, tc AW solution is the kit. The name of the module is p3 underscore module. And then notice it creates it. So if I look in my stage source directory, I now have my p3 module and my components. So a little bit different, definitely an evolution on what we had before. So for the customization components, definitely check these out. I did want to focus in on one additional topic here. If I come in to my environment and I go to Active Architect, which I'll switch to in my workspace. So I'll switch this to Active Architect. And I look kind of up at the top. Notice it's got the query builder, the table configurator, which is new. But notice over on the left-hand side, you have commands for it as well. And you have like the panel builder that's available, the configuration builder. If I select those elements, notice the configuration builder is available here. I can go into workspaces and indicators and type icons now. So this may have been around a little bit, but these are kind of new to me. So workspaces, I can now go in, see the workspace, and actually edit the code. I don't have to go in and change the code at the server level anymore. I can also look at indicator code and see the code for the indicator development and modify it. So I can control a lot of those components that we couldn't do via the command line in this interface now, and I highly recommend taking a look at this config builder to achieve goals like moving commands around or looking at code changes from the backend. This has been a video overview of what's new in Teamcenter 24.12 customization.